In this video, we will be discussing The Banker, a 2020 film based on the actual story of Bernard Garrett and Joe Morris. This when prejudice made such a feat practically impossible for African Americans. We are introduced to Bernard's boyhood when he is cleaning people's shoes outside the bank and listening to bankers' conversations, which he records in his notebook. He has always done this, and via this method, he has learned a lot about banking. Bernard was once seated near the bank window monitoring the dialogue when he was apprehended by a security guard, but he managed to flee. When Bernard's father notices his notepad, he asks, "Why are you spying on white bankers? This is not factual." Bernard responds that all he wants to do is learn how to make more money. His father claims that his son is gifted, but that the only flaw is that he was born with the incorrect skin color. As black males in Texas are unable to earn a living, Bernard responds that he cannot earn in Texas but can earn elsewhere. Bernard is now a man, and he has moved to Los Angeles, as seen in the next scene. He pays trips to his wife's uncle's house and declares that he wants to start a real estate firm in Los Angeles. The uncle made fun of him at first, but then he explains that it is not a simple assignment. Bernard departs towards his baby's room. Bernard takes his cousin off to work the next day when he meets Matt Steiner. After that, Bernard departs and go visit those houses in Texas that have a for sale sign on them. Bernard's wife introduces him to a co-investor, Joe Morris. We see Bernard negotiating with Mr. Barker to buy his property. Mr. Barker asks $40,000 for the sale of his land, which Bernard counters with a $30,000 offer, which Barker refuses. Bernard is also seen at Mainland Bank, where he wants to meet one of the bank's employees, but the authority refuses to meet him since he is black. He waits outside the bank for the employer and takes out a $10,000 loan in Mr. Barker's name. When Barker learns about this, he contacts Bernard. Bernard feels frightened, but Barker is not prepared to do business with him. Bernard is ecstatic about this. The next day, Bernard and his companion are remodeling a building when a white lady who rents the building appears. She becomes enraged because they are black and people ask, "What are you doing in this white building?" Bernard responds that he purchased the structure from Mr. Barker. Bernard has made a large profit, which he shares with Barker in the following scene. Barker is pleased and wants to continue working with Bernard. They both agree on a 50-50 participations in the company. However, Barker insists on doing all of the agreements himself because no one wants to deal with the black man. Bernard admits that they are buying and selling a growing numbers of houses. The firm was running smoothly and efficiently. Barker died of a heart attack in the middle of the night. Miss Barker does not want to do business with any black people. Therefore, he cancels all of Barker's agreement with Bernard. Miss Barker then offers a 25% shares, which Bernard declines because they had agreed to a 50-50 partnership with Barker. Miss Barker threatens him, claiming that all of his dealings are signed by his husband and that as a result, Bernard would suffer a significant financial loss. Bernard is seen with Joe in the next scene. He wants Joe to buy the banker's building, but Joe refuses since there are no black people in that building and no one will deal with them. We also encounter Matt Steiner, who Bernard claims will take care of us. Matt claims that he has no experience with banks. Bernard assures him that he will teach him all he needs to know. Joe does not trust Matt, although he agrees with Bernard when he says so. In the following scene, Matt is at a restaurant when he meets Susie, a waitress. Joe and Bernard also taught him golf and banking methods to Matt in order to help him become a professional banker. Matt is totally prepared for the deal in less than a month. They share some information on Charles Renard, the owner of the banker's building. Before departing, Charles and Matt meet up and play golf together, which allows them to learn more about one another. Then we see Matt travel to banker's building to talk with Charles, where he performs some calculations and explains the true worth of the banker's building to Charles. Guys, this is one of the most interesting scenes where Matt stuns Charles by performing extensive mathematical calculations on his fingertips, whilst Charles' helper is unable to do it quickly using a calculator. Charles is now highly impressed with Matt and is ready to complete the transaction. But we all know the secret. Matt learned all of the formula thanks to his excellent memory skills. Mr. Reed is surprised when Joe and Bernard walk to banker's building with Matt the next day. Following that, Bernard and his crew acquire and sell a large number of properties, resulting in a rise in the populations of Negroes. Bernard is ecstatic to witness all of this. Bernard returns to his hometown of Texas for a while. He goes to the bank with his son in Texas, where he used to shine shoes. Bernard asks a child who is cleaning shoes to shine his shoes, but the lad refuses since he only works for whites. Bernard is inspired by all of this and decides to acquire Mainland Bank because the bank refuses to lend to Negroes, preventing them from building houses or starting businesses. Bernard also speaks about buying the bank with Joe, but Joe isn't interested. He claims that we are doing well in Los Angeles and that replicating that success in Texas is dangerous. Bernard tells Joe that if he doesn't agree with him, he'll look for a new partner. Joe finally agrees. They go to the bank the next day with Matt and meet the bank's owner, Robert Florence. Robert Florence's son has reservations about Matt, but Robert seals the deal. Bernard alters various bank restrictions after becoming the bank's owner in order to provide Negroes with a loan. Bernard lends money to a large number of Negroes. In the following scene, Robert Florence's son approaches Matt and inquires about the loan he has bestowed upon 14 individuals. According to Florence Jr., I only know 4 persons among them who are the remainder of the folks. As the remainder of the folks are Negroes, Matt becomes worried. Robert Jr. has reservations about Matt and is keeping an eye on him. He observes Matt with Bernard one wonderful night. Further in the scene, Joe and Bernard are discussing something at Matt's house when Florence Jr. appears. They all dispute and Robert accuses them of lying to them. Bernard receives a letter from the U.S. Treasury Department stating that they will visit foreign inspections next month and leaves. Bernard wishes to withdraw Negro's loan prior to inspection, but they are unsure how to do so. Matt suggests buying a new bank, which Bernard and Joe dismiss as being too dangerous at this time. However, Matt claims that we may transfer all of Negro's loans from the Mainland Bank to the new bank. After much deliberations, they come to an agreement. This time, Matt insists on being the bank's owner, and the gang gets into a violent dispute before finally agreeing. They buy First National Bank of Berlin, and Matt passes many loans to pay off Mainland Bank's debts. Everything was okay until a federal officer checked Matt's bank's transaction. Matt becomes agitated and dials Bernard's number. When the federal officers were scrutinizing the file, Bernard was dressed as a bank sweeper. He questioned Matt about a number of bank statements, but he has no idea. Matt enacted several measures that are in violations of banking regulations. All of this is due to Robert Jr.'s lawyer, who sent him to Matt in order to deceive him. Matt tries to settle the amount of Berlin Bank from Mainland Bank without alerting Joe and Bernard, which is also against the National Banking Act. As a result, the U.S. Treasury Department shuts Mainland Bank and Matt is fired. Joe and Bernard were also apprehended by authorities but were freed owing to a lack of compelling evidence. At the same time, Matt is pressured by authorities to create a statement claiming that the 2 Negroes deceived him, or else they will take significant action. Matt becomes irritated. In the following scene, we see Matt being tried, and he admits that he did everything because of Joe and Bernard. Bernard is now on trial, and he is being advised to keep his cool. Bernard claims that under our country's rule, everyone is equal and protected by the same laws. Yet this is not the case for everyone. These prosecutions should focus on the bank's mismanagement rather than how the Negroes brought the bank to Texas. Bernard then shows Negroes the clothing code they wear in Texas, explaining that it means you can obtain a loan and you can live an American life. Authorities attempt to stop Bernard, but he responds by asking why a town is separated from America. Is it only due to their skin tone? The trial comes to an end there. In the last scene, Bernard is released from jail after 3 years and is greeted by Joe, Bernard's wife, and their kid. Bernard begs his wife to accompany him home, but she refuses because they do not have a home. Bernard and Joe exchange a smile and continue. We have 2 properties in the Bahamas. The wife is taken aback and inquiries about this. To which Bernard responds, Matt called and told me that I had to talk against you or else they will punish me. Bernard accepts and asks Matt to buy him 2 mansions in the Bahamas in exchange. For the performances and entertainment value, The Banker is worth seeing. Just keep in mind that this isn't a history lecture.